You know, it's fascinating. People think governance is about management. They think it's about efficiency, and they're interested in it because if they can manage the church well, they can get on to the real business, which is religion. But what good governance does is it forces us to ask essential questions on a regular basis and to make promises to one another about what we're going to do together and for whom we're doing it.
In my view, and as I come at it as a lay leader, this is some of the most religious work I've had the privilege to be involved in.
Congregations want to make a real difference in the world. They have passion for seeing a world full of love, full of justice, and what we want to help them do is build governance systems that enable them to build that world that they seek.
In the year of our Lord, 1648, in the parish of Cambridge, in the colony called Massachusetts, delegates gathered representing all of the congregations which had been founded in New England since the Plymouth Pilgrims had landed 27 years before. They came together to make some agreements about how they would order their lives, both in particular religious communities and as a community of congregations. The document resulting from their labors is called the Cambridge Platform. It is one of the formative statements of the early American experiment. In matters of polity, we are shaped by the Cambridge Platform of 1648. It espouses three key concepts: that we are to walk together in love within our congregations, among our congregations, and beyond them in the work in the world. The second key concept is that the constituent members of any group are free to determine its affairs. 150 years later, that concept, first articulated in the Cambridge Platform, is repeated in the concept of the consent of the governed, and is key to the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. It was first articulated in the context of a conversation about how we organize congregational life. The constituent members of the group have the power to shape the life of the group. And the third and most challenging for us concept embedded in the Cambridge Platform is that the congregation is not formed solely geographically. It's not a representation of the parish, the geography, the community. It is instead a gathering of visible saints. So transformation, both of self and of society, is at the heart of who we say we are. We're rooted in that notion. We are, therefore, a covenantal faith. James Luther Adams, the greatest Unitarian Universalist theologian of the 20th century, quotes Martin Buber, probably the greatest Jewish theologian of the 20th century, as saying that humans are promise-making, promise-keeping, promise-breaking, promise-renewing beings. We like to say promise-making, promise-keeping, and leave the other two off, but he said all four. Though the word covenant is most often used to refer to a statement commonly read in unison as part of worship, I suggest that we expand our understanding of this concept and imagine covenant as a verb, as a way of being together. Imagine covenant as spiritual practice. Good governance is a covenantal experience among people who ask over and over again, what is most important now? And what shall we promise each other in pursuit of what is most important now? The purpose of the church is not the perpetuation of the church. We practice an idolatry of institutional life rather than engaging one another in conversations about purpose and transformation. We cannot afford to assume the effectiveness of our congregations. We have to ask, is it working? Isn't it time we made that clear by finding the will and the ways that we can invite people fully into the ministry of the church? That's what good governance does. In his first published essay entitled Nature, which was published in 1836, Emerson asks, why should not we have an original relation with the universe? He's pointing to what we choose to call the experience of the holy and to the centrality of that personal experience to liberal religion. I would argue that the experience of the holy is universal, that it is not culturally determined, that it is one experience approached from a variety of different directions. Words like union, merger, a sense of letting go of one's particular identity in order to experience the unity or deep connectedness some call God, these words in 1,000 languages are all the same. In every tradition, the experience of the holy is described with the same kinds of words. So that experience, we would argue, is one. Experience is absolutely at the center of our tradition, so we begin our work with an exercise that invites you first into quiet contemplation of a time in your life when you experienced, shall we say, a glimpse of the holy, a moment of spiritual insight. In the Zen tradition, there is an adage, don't bite my finger, look where I'm pointing. Try not to get hooked by my language. You're good. Do your own translating. The centrality of experience is key to effective governance, and you'll see why in a moment. Some of these stories do happen in church. Many will be set elsewhere. Once I climbed Mount Sinai with my family in the middle of the night. We left at 2 o'clock in the morning with the idea of being at the summit for sunrise. We climbed Mount Sinai in the middle of the night, and I was holding the hand of 7-year-old Hannah. The path was treacherous, steep, icy. We were both a little frightened, and we held on tight. Halfway up the mountain in the moonlight, I realized I couldn't tell anymore where I ended and she began. I couldn't feel the separation between the two of us. It was a glimpse of the holy. We had become one in the midst of our effort. Over the course of our time together, we will be asking you to reflect for a moment on your own, to share your reflection with a partner, and then to join others in small groups of 4 and once of 8 to work toward deeper understanding and consensus. We are well aware that people learn in diverse and differing ways. We also know that learning to listen well, engaging life's essential questions, the questions of meaning, and trusting those with whom we are in conversation to help us to move toward greater depth and insight are basic skills for good governance. Now take a moment to reflect on an experience of the holy in your life. We'd like you to pair up with someone near you in the room. It can be someone you know. It doesn't have to be someone you know. And take 5 minutes altogether to share your story and listen to theirs. Then when you're done, take 5 minutes to create a list of values that you hear embedded in the story. Does the story speak to an underlying value of, say, independence or reverence or empowerment or authenticity or wonder, freedom, generosity? You have your own list. And you're going to choose 3 values then that connect both of the stories, that both of you would want to take forward into the future of your religious life. Tap into the power of the unconscious wisdom that Malcolm Gladwell, the author of Blink, says that we all possess. Work quickly and see what rises to the surface. Then we're going to ask you to tap into that unconscious wisdom again by making a group of 4, and in 5 minutes choosing 3 values that your group of 4 all agree you would want to carry forward into the future of your religious life. So again, share your story with a partner and hear your partner's story. 5 minutes. Make a list of the values embedded in your stories, then choose 3 you'd want to carry forward into your religious life with your partner. Then form a group of 4 and make another list of 3 values that all 4 of you would want to carry forward into your future religious life. And then we'll hear from the room. All we want you to do is say the 3 or so values. Don't introduce or give background.
Connectedness, wonder, peace.
Connectedness, validation or authenticity, and empowerment.
Connectedness, awe, and awareness of something beyond self.
Deep connection, wonder and awe, reverence.
Transcendence, connection, authenticity.
Forgiveness, unconditional acceptance, and transformation.
Connection, community, love.
Gratitude, reverence, and part of the whole.
Wow. Are you by any chance starting to hear patterns emerge in the list of values? You see how this works? After a while, imagine doing this kind of an exercise in your congregation. Sure, you could do it with your board or your leadership circle, but you could also do this with everyone. And you would start with the experience of the holy. You would ask them about values. You would start forming larger and larger groups, and your congregation will actually be able to reach significant consensus about the core values out of which your ministry grows.